Hello everyone, Don here with the next update on the War Corsair project. As you can see, this is pretty much the final phase of the aircraft. This is what it looks like all together. This is the first time I've ever had this plane together this much. Before I had wings on it, but no canopy, no propeller. So now this thing, everything that goes on this airplane is on it. See, I got the flaps retracted, or not retracted, but extended. Don't worry about the ailerons. The ailerons aren't hooked up, so they're both drooping. I just had to get the wings on so I could do the weight and balance today. I want to tell you, it was a miserable day out here in the sun doing this weight and balance. And once I finished that up, I went ahead and gave her a quick wash down. So this is pretty much what she looks like now. Get back here a little bit. Give you guys a quick walk around. As you can see, I got the landing gear doors on with the number 86. I got the piece of leather attached. It's riveted up along the top edge, and it's riveted along the edge here. The gear doors are finally all hooked up. I still had to end up clearancing just a little bit for the scissor assembly. It still wanted to hit on this side for some reason. As you can see, the propeller's in. It's on, it's snugged down, but it's not torqued. I'm going to have to recheck the blade pitch. I kind of just preliminarily set them at 5 degrees just to put some pitch to it. I'll need to check it again, torque the bolts, and then I'll see about starting her up. The fuel tank's sitting in there, but I had to take the tank off to do the weight and balance. I did bring out the cherry picker so I could pick the aircraft up. I still got my sling in here to pick it up. But what I ended up doing, that framework I made for the scale, I made a second one. And when they were both pointing inward, they were only like 2 inches apart, so I could set both of them on one scale. So what I did, level the aircraft fore and aft, left to right, on the roll and longitudinal axis. Leveled it all out. And then I took and jumped into plane. Had the wife read the scale, wrote that down. Then I took the fuel tank off. I weighed it separately. Turns out that thing with the 2 pumps, ascending unit and all, weighs 18 pounds empty, surprisingly. So I took it off, and then I got 90 pounds of weight of different things, actual dumbbell weights and boxes and extra of little weights, until I got to 90 pounds of weight, and then I added another like 18 pounds for the difference of the tank. So with that all on there, and then me in the aircraft, we weighed the nose again. So I weighed it first with no fuel, with the tank in, so completely empty, just on the fronts. Took the tank off through 100 and roughly 10 pounds, 15 pounds where the gas tank sits, jumped back in it, weighed it again. Then I took the airplane, picked it up, put it back on its wheels, readjusted the height of the tail wheel, put the scale under there, and read the tail. Surprisingly, the tail weighs 90 pounds when the airplane is empty of fuel with me in it, and then it only weighs 88 pounds with full fuel. So the weight is a little on forward because the tank is forward of the CG. But in the long run, I took and run the math, and I don't think I brought it out with me, but it turns out I used the prop hub flange right here for the datum, so that's 0. So even if you don't have this prop on there, you can still reference from here. From there to the center of the mains was 43 inches, and from there to the center of the tail wheel when it's straight back was 162 inches, exactly 13 foot 6 inches long from prop to tail wheel. So this aircraft is over 17, almost 18 foot long. So we're crunching the numbers after I found the calculators or the formula online. Turns out the forward CG on this airfoil is 49 inches from here to the propeller flange, and then the aft limit is 53 and like 3/8 inches. So with the plane fully full empty, it weighed it came in at It was towards the back. It was like 52 inches. 52.1 inches was the CG with no fuel, so that'd be completely empty, gliding, and the aft limit of the airfoil is, no, it's 51.1, the aft is 52 something, so I'm just under an inch from the full aft, which is the worst condition to have. And then with full fuel and me in it, it came out, the forward limit was 49, it came out to 51, it was like 2 inches aft. But I'm damn near dead smack in the middle. I'm maybe an inch back if I do the average of the two weights, full empty, full fuel. I'm about an inch back of the ideal center of the airfoils. But with me at 225 pounds full dress, it weighs, it's fine. Now it's actually a little nose light, so if you was to get a lighter pilot, like a 180 pound pilot in there, it'd be more favoring the nose heavy attitude, which is fine either way. But I may be able to crunch some numbers later. I didn't weigh it with me not in it because that's irrelevant. So anyway, as you can see, I got these in as well, and surprisingly that gear pops up at least an inch, and these things are just too tight. It puts too much resistance on the gear that right side still doesn't want to completely shut off all the time when it's gone. When I have the charger hooked to it, it helps, and sometimes it works, sometimes it don't work. But it's just a little too stiff, so I'm going to take them off, and I'm going to get some inner tube and put in there, which is softer. Alright, and then there was a comment. A guy saw me mentioning tow out with the landing gear and says, oh no, you gotta have tow in. Well, that's the old way of thinking. The new way is, if you've ever been in a car, of course everyone has, and if you do a hard left turn, what happens? What happens to you? You get thrown to the right because the car, as you're turning left, the center of the vehicle's CG rolls to the right, and what that does is it puts weight on the right wheel. So if you're starting to turn, say you land and you get a little tailwind hit you, or a little crosswind hit you in the tail and start steering you left, first thing that's going to happen is the plane, as it's turning left, your center will roll. You're going to roll to the right, put more weight on that right wheel. And which way is that wheel pointed? That wheel's pointed left. So it's going to emphasize your left turning tendency with for a ground loop. You're just going to add extra weight to that wheel. Now, the same scenario with tow out, you get a tailwind, hit your tail, pushes you sideways, and you start steering left. The airplane rolls right, the weight rolls onto the right tire. Which way is it pointed now? It's pointed out. So it pulls to the right, and when it pulls back to the right, the CG of the aircraft rolls back around to the left side. And then that tire is towed out, so it tries to pull it back. So you'll probably get a couple of oscillations as the weight rolls back and forth, but it will not emphasize a ground roll. With tow in, that weight rolls onto that wheel, and that wheel's pointing in. It just adds to the turn. So that's the reason for tow out. And if it proves me wrong, which I highly doubt, the engineering, the geometry is in favor of my ideas, but it's aircraft engineer was the one who wrote the story. But even if it didn't, I can always flip that bottom link around and flip them side to side, and have my tow in. It'll just change it. And then another person was asking about the airfoils. This is the book. It's called GA Airfoils. And again, it's written by Harry Riblet. And these are the foils. Now there's what you call turbulent. This is a prelude of what he did to come up with these airfoils. He essentially took known airfoils, get out of the wind, and he run them through this program, which he explains in here. That's all talking about this program and all the airfoils. And these are the airfoils that he generated. There's 12 different airfoils, and these are all the data points. So what you have to do is you have to determine the chord length of your wing. Let me find a picture. But these are all the data points that you have to literally crunch numbers for. If your wing is tapered and you got 20 different wing ribs of different chord lengths, yeah, you got to do 20 of them. But this is the basic airfoils. These are the G30 series, like I used. I used this airfoil right here. And you have to draw these all out manually with all these numbers back here in these charts. So it's like these are the station numbers. Sorry, the station numbers meaning 0 to 100%. So it goes to 100%. And then they have the ordnance. One is for the top, upper ordnance, lower ordnance. And these are the ordnance numbers at the position. You multiply this number by, like my cord is 54 inches. You take 54 times 0.8, and that gives you the first point. And at the first point, you got to be 50 thousandths above and 690 thousandths below. So your first dot gets drawn up here, second dot there, and you got to plot these out all the way. So you got to crunch every one of these numbers, you know, multiple times for these airfoils. And then on top of that, the wing is twisted. So I'd mentioned before that this root wing rib here is up 2 degrees, and the wingtip is 0 to the center line of the fuselage. So when the aircraft's level, wingtip is 0, roots +2 already. So what that does is, as you reach a stall point, this section of the wing will stall first, and then as the stall progresses, it slowly works its way out to the wingtip before the aircraft finally stalls. And what that does is it gives you roll stability with the ailerons right up to the point of the stall. So that's called wash out. So this is positive pitch, neutral pitch. Wash in, you would either be 0 and then 2 degrees nose down, nose up for wash in, but this is what they call wash out. So, but again, so when you calculate those wing ribs, each one of these ribs has to be set at 2 degrees, and then you got to figure out the length of the wing, and you got to figure out, well, this rib needs to be less than 2 degrees, this rib's a little less, and then the last rib is 0. And it gives you that 2-degree twist. So each one of those ribs all had to be designed to match the incident angle of +2 and tapers finally to 0. So there's 1 rib, 2 ribs, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ribs. These are all 54. This is 54, but that tapers down to 48 or something like that. So there was a lot of number crunching to get this thing done. So and there's a pitot tube, which I bumped into and just broke off. So, might have to make this piece out of steel, real thin piece of steel or something. But that's how it looks, folks. See if we can get back here and give you a big look. See what she looks like from the back end. Looks pretty sharp with those flaps. Corsair, just not a Corsair without the flaps. Alright, well, that's basically in flying condition. If this thing was all buttoned up, ready to go, engine was tested fine, it could fly today. It's literally ready to go, other than hooking up the ailerons, hooking up that last flap and re-rig and make sure it's good. That was all rigged before, I just got to hook it back up. The bolts in the wings are just slipped in, they're not nutted or nothing. I'm going to get some of that like leading edge tape, propeller tape, to put across this seam after it's assembled at the airport. I'm going to replace those. This is all done, everything's pinned, cotter pinned, bearings are all finished, everything's cotter pinned, ready to go. The only thing left is I got to put the little latch in for the canopy, finish off that latch mechanism in there. As you can see, I got to put the other little piece on this part of the frame so you can lock it. Get a plug to wire up that, get the gas tank locked down, put some fuel in her, fire up, folks. Alright, well, I've got to tear this thing apart, get the wife out here, and we'll pull these wings off, get this thing put away for the night. But I got a lot done this week. I did finish, getting the straps here. There's a piece of felt on there. So you can see it's just kind of loose. Let's just pop it to the front, because this twist, that rotates with the gear. So that can't be clamped tight. And then this is all finished up here. I may get some of the white paint and dab these up. I do have a couple little spots again that are nicked up on the plane that needs a little touch up here and there. Get it before the stuff goes bad, before it sets up. Alright folks, that's going to do it for this week's update. Hope everybody likes that. Got a really nice view there. It's first time, again, like I said, this has ever been fully assembled. If I had gas in it, I could start it. That's what she looks like, folks. Can't get any sweeter than that. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and button this thing up, get her put away, get her back in the garage, get everything locked up. It's about 6 p.m. here, Sunday. I'm going to go ahead and put her away, but I got a lot done this week. Those gear doors and everything are finally done, so she's ready to go. The first few flights, of course, the gear is not going to be retracted. It's just going to stay down the whole time. You got to find out, you know, the stall rates. The only thing left is, you can kind of see right there on the bottom of the wing is where I got to make those covers. Keep mentioning them covers. Right there. See that big old gaping hole? Actually, I got to cut some of this out right here because I can't get in there to get to the nuts to put the bolts in. Alright, as always, people, I appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. As always, feel free to leave any comments, questions, or concerns. And again, a reference to the wife, Sue. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, concerns. I think I'm going to go around and hit this thing with a buffer as I washed it off. Some of this overspray, this is not bad here, but washing it, the cloth sticks in some spots, but there's a little bit of overspray right there. I'll get in there. I polished the other side last year, but there's just a few spots that I can feel it with the washcloth. It grabs, like right there's a little. I'll just buff over that and smooth it out. Alright, for the third and last time, folks. Oh, the kid had to come out and say hello. That is Loki. Loki, say hello. Alright, folks. Again, appreciate you watching the videos, and feel free to leave any comments, questions, concerns, and I'll answer them as they come along. So until next weekend, hopefully next weekend, I'll get those covers cut out and ready, and I'll get the tank locked down, hooked up, get some fuel in it, and maybe next weekend you'll see this thing fired up. But of course, the wings won't be on. I'm not going to do that again. They won't go back on until the FAA needs to come up and see this thing. Alright, folks, I'll catch you guys next weekend. This is Dino Don out.